Have you ever opened up to your family thinking it would bring you closer only to walk away, feeling more confused or even a little judged? At this stage of life, we've learned that not every truth needs to be told. Not because we're hiding, but because we're protecting something more valuable than approval, our peace. And the older we get, the more we realize that peace doesn't come from saying everything. Sometimes it comes from holding a little back. In today's video, we're talking about 5 powerful things you may want to keep to yourself after 65. These aren't secrets out of fear. They're boundaries made from experience. Because living healthy after 50 isn't just about the body, it's about emotional strength-wise communication and the freedom to live on your terms. So if you believe your later years should be calm, confident, and full of dignity, you're in the right place. Like this video, subscribe to Live Healthy After 50. And let me ask, what's one thing you now choose to keep just for yourself? Let's begin with the first truth that's better protected than shared. Number 1, your exact financial situation. For most of our lives, we were taught that openness equals trust. That if you love your family, you should be transparent, especially about money. You might think that laying it all out will prevent conflict down the road, but past a certain age, full financial disclosure doesn't always bring peace. In fact, it can quietly take away something you've worked a lifetime to protect your independence. Your financial story is more than just numbers on a page. It's a record of every overtime shift you worked, every sacrifice you made instead of spending on yourself. It's deeply personal. And while it might feel like love to share every detail, it can unintentionally invite opinions, pressure, and judgment, especially from those who believe they're helping. Let me tell you about Richard. He's 79 and lives in Phoenix. A retired electrician, steady and thoughtful, the kind of man who clips coupons, not because he has to, but because he respects the value of a dollar. A few years back, wanting to avoid confusion later, Richard called a family meeting. He showed his 2 sons his savings, retirement accounts, even his burial plan. He printed spreadsheets, color-coded them, walked them through every detail. At first they nodded, thanked him. But within a few weeks, the questions started. Why are you still in that house, Dad? Shouldn't you downsize before it gets harder to move? One son suggested managing his accounts jointly just in case something happened. Soon, Richard noticed comments about his spending. You really bought a new flat screen. Isn't that cruise a little much? What started as a plan for transparency slowly turned into a quiet loss of control. This happens more than people admit. A study from the Journal of Financial Planning found that over 40% of older adults who shared financial details with family experienced increased interference in personal decisions, and most of it was framed as concern. But concern can easily become control, especially when love and money are in the same conversation. And it's not just children. Sometimes distant relatives, old acquaintances, even adult grandchildren take an unexpected interest once they know the numbers. A cousin who rarely called might suddenly become very helpful. Someone who never asked about your health might now want to know about your will. Their intentions may be good or not, but either way it changes the dynamic. This doesn't mean you should avoid all planning. You absolutely should have a will. You should assign power of attorney. You should choose someone you trust to handle things if you can't. But there's a difference between planning and previewing, between making smart legal arrangements and opening yourself up to judgment long before it's necessary. Think about how long it took to build your savings. How many decisions, delays, and sacrifices it took to get where you are. That deserves respect. You've earned the right to spend how you want, when you want, without having to explain every choice. Whether it's a vacation, a donation to your church, or a new coat that makes you feel good. These choices belong to you. Here's something that matters even more. Your sense of autonomy, your freedom to make decisions without a chorus of outside voices, is essential for healthy aging. Studies from Harvard Health show that maintaining personal agency, especially after 65, helps reduce stress, prevent aging diseases, and promote emotional wellness. It's not just about protecting money. It's about protecting your mental and emotional health. So if someone tells you that you should just be open about your finances, pause, ask yourself this. Is sharing this going to bring clarity or more complexity? Are they asking out of genuine concern or quiet control? You don't need to hand over your bank statements to feel loved. You don't have to list your assets to prove you trust someone. Trust can be shown in many ways, and love does not require full access to your checkbook. This is about boundaries. Boundaries are not walls. They are doors with locks, and you decide when and with whom to turn the key. Keeping some things private isn't secrecy, it's wisdom. It's one of those senior health tips we don't hear enough about, but one that matters deeply. So if you're focused on aging gracefully, and you want your later years to be marked by calm, confidence, and choice, start by protecting your financial privacy. It's not about hiding, it's about honoring your life's work. Because peace, especially in your 60s, 70s, and beyond, isn't something someone gives you. It's something you guard daily. That's one of the most overlooked daily habits for longevity. And it starts with one quiet decision. Share only what's necessary when it's truly necessary. Shaki Yearn 2. Every little health issue. Some things are just part of getting older. A stiff back in the morning, a little knee pain when it rains, trouble falling asleep now and then. These aren't emergencies. They're just part of the rhythm of life after 60. But the moment we casually mention them to our kids or grandkids, those small comments can take on a life of their own. What we think of as just sharing can sound like a cry for help to the people who love us, especially our children. They hear things differently now. A passing my hip felt a little sore yesterday gets translated as, Mom might be falling apart. And suddenly a tiny moment becomes a full-blown conversation about home care physical therapy and whether you should be driving after dark. This is exactly what happened to Teresa, a 74-year-old retired librarian in Spokane. She lives alone, walks every day, and tends to her garden like it's her second child. One Sunday, after pulling weeds for hours, she told her daughter over lunch that her wrist felt tight. That one small sentence, shared without concern, without asking for anything, set off a wave. Her daughter canceled her own plans to come back the next morning. She booked a doctor's appointment without asking. She sent links to ergonomic tools and insisted they discuss hiring someone to help around the house. What Teresa meant as a passing remark was heard as a warning signal, and what started as love soon felt like surveillance. This is the fine line so many of us walk after 65. We want to stay connected. We want our family to care. But we also want to be seen as capable, strong, still in charge of our own daily lives, and too much focus on every little health complaint can quietly shift how our family sees us from independent adult to someone they need to manage. That shift doesn't just affect how they treat us, it changes how we feel about ourselves. According to research from the gerontologist, seniors who feel over-monitored by family are more likely to report anxiety, depression, and a sense of diminished control. It's not the health issue that causes stress, it's the reaction to it. You've likely experienced this already. A single offhand comment like, "I didn't sleep well last night," turns into a discussion about melatonin sleep studies and whether you're safe living alone. It's not that they mean harm, it's that they don't yet understand the difference between aging and illness. We know our own bodies better than anyone. We've lived in them for decades. We know when something is truly off, and we know when something is just part of everyday life. It's okay to talk about what hurts, but ask yourself who needs to hear it. Your doctor? Yes. A close friend who gets it? Maybe. But does your daughter need to know about every ache, every cramp, every dizzy spell that passed 5 minutes later? Probably not. Because once you start sharing every little discomfort, your family may start building a story about you, a story that doesn't match how you see yourself. A story where you're fragile, declining, and in need of constant checking in. That story, if repeated long enough, becomes their truth, and their truth becomes your experience. Over 60 wellness isn't just about exercise or what's on your plate. It's about how you carry yourself, how you speak about your body, and how you allow others to see your strength. That doesn't mean you have to suffer in silence. Not at all. Real symptoms deserve real attention. If something hurts consistently, if it limits your mobility or affects your daily life, get it checked. But for the minor stuff, the everyday twinges and tightness, consider keeping it close. That's not denial, that's wisdom. Many experts in natural health for seniors agree your mindset and your self-perception play a huge role in how you age. If you focus every conversation on what's going wrong in your body, you reinforce that narrative. But if you lead with your routines, your accomplishments, your resilience, that becomes your identity. This is one of the most overlooked doctor tips for older adults. Not everything your body tells you needs to be shared aloud. Choose what you say with care, because your words shape how others treat you and how you see yourself. You are not your back pain. You are not your stiff shoulder. You are not your blood pressure reading. You are a full person rich with memory, strength, humor, and wisdom. Don't let small discomforts become the headline of your life. Talk to your doctor. Track your symptoms. Take your health seriously, but quietly, wisely, and with intention. And when you're with your family, let them see the version of you that's still thriving, still full of life, still in charge. Because you are Piri suffered authority, family conflicts, and drama. There's something that happens after 65. You've seen a lot, lived through arguments, reconciliations, and long periods of silence. And now when you watch your children or relatives disagree, every part of you wants to help. You think, maybe if I say just one thing, I can fix it. But offering advice, no matter how gentle, can quietly turn into the very spark that keeps the fire burning. You might not even realize it when it's happening. You speak out of love, out of experience. But people don't always hear you that way. They hear your words through their own filters, resentment, pride, fear. And suddenly your intention to bring peace becomes the reason someone pulls away. That's what happened to Joyce, a 78-year-old widow living outside Minneapolis. She's thoughtful, always polite, and the kind of person people usually seek out for wisdom. During a visit with her son and daughter-in-law, their toddler was throwing a tantrum. Joyce, trying to ease the moment, quietly said, "Sometimes a little quiet time helps when they get overstimulated." It wasn't a criticism, just a soft suggestion. But the room changed. Her daughter-in-law grew cold. Her son stopped calling as often. The tension didn't explode, it froze. And weeks later, when Joyce called to ask if they wanted to come for Sunday dinner, they said they were too busy. That chill in the relationship never fully thawed. This is what makes family conflict so dangerous at this stage in life. The smallest words can echo the loudest. Not because they're harsh, but because in family dynamics, history hangs heavy. And your voice, whether you mean it or not, can be seen as taking sides. The truth is, you don't have to be involved in every argument you're invited to. You don't have to offer a solution just because you can see the problem. And you certainly don't have to speak to prove that you care. Sometimes love is staying silent. According to a survey by Pew Research, nearly 45% of family rifts among adult children and their parents start with misinterpreted advice or unsolicited comments, and the damage is often long-term. Not because the words were cruel, but because they were unwanted. You're not here to fix every family feud. You've already lived through enough of your own. Now is the time to protect your emotional space. That's not selfish. It's part of aging gracefully with wisdom. And here's something to remember. Not every silence is empty. Sometimes it's full of trust. Trust that your children will find their way, that your relatives will grow through struggle just like you did. You don't have to carry their lessons for them. When people fight over money, parenting, politics, or even Thanksgiving plans, it's rarely about the surface issue. It's about ego-hurt feelings or years of built-up misunderstanding. And your voice, no matter how sincere, can easily get caught in the middle. This doesn't mean you shouldn't be present. You can still listen, still be kind, still set a loving example. But don't mistake presence for participation. Being the calm center, the one who doesn't react, who offers comfort without correction, that's powerful. That's peace. And peace at this point in life is more important than proving a point. Even the best senior home remedies can't fix the kind of wounds that come from emotional overreach. Sometimes the best healing comes from stepping back. So when conflict arises, and it will ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Will my words help or just add more noise? If you're unsure, it's okay to say, I trust you to work this out. Or I'm here if you need me, but I'll stay out of it. You've spent decades building relationships. Don't risk unraveling them over a disagreement that isn't yours to solve. Senior health isn't just physical, it's emotional. Protecting your heart and your peace is just as important as protecting your joints or your memory. And choosing when to speak or when not to is one of the most underrated skills of aging well. If your goal is to age with dignity, to be remembered as the quiet strength in the family, not the voice that picks sides, then silence can be your greatest ally. Because sometimes the most loving thing you can say is nothing at all. Safrishern, honor 4, your deepest regrets. After 65, we carry more than memories. We carry moments we can't get back. Roads we didn't take. Things we didn't say. For many of us, regrets become companions, quiet ones that rise during slow walks or still nights. And sometimes we feel the urge to speak them aloud, to share them with our children or grandchildren, thinking it might bring us closer. But what feels like reflection to us can feel like rejection to them. You might say, I wish I'd traveled more, and mean it as a passing thought, but your daughter might hear, raising you kept me from my dreams. You might say, I should have worked longer, and your son hears, I retired too soon because of you. The words were innocent, but the impact runs deeper. That's what happened to Eleanor, 76, a retired nurse from Charleston. One day, walking with her youngest daughter through a local park, she quietly said, "Sometimes I wish I hadn't given up my music scholarships when I got married." She smiled when she said it, meant it as a memory, not a complaint. But later, her daughter broke down. She said, "Mom, were we just your second choice?" That moment stuck. The warmth between them chilled for months, and all Eleanor wanted to do was rewind her words. This is the danger of regrets spoken too freely. They shift the emotional weight onto someone else's shoulders, the people we love the most. Even science supports this. A study published in Psychology and Aging found that older adults who frequently verbalize regrets, especially to family, unintentionally created emotional strain in close relationships. The more often they shared what they should have done, the more their loved ones reported feeling guilt, sadness, or emotional distance. And here's the irony. Often we share regrets to teach, to pass on wisdom, but the listener hears only what they weren't, or what they didn't give. The message gets lost in emotion. This is where language matters. Instead of saying, I wish I had lived differently, try saying, I've learned so much from the life I've lived. That simple change protects the past while opening space for deeper understanding. It turns a wound into a window, one that lets your family see your growth without feeling like they caused your pain. Regrets are real. They're part of being human, but they don't have to be the main part of the story you tell now. Longevity secrets aren't just about food and movement. They're about mindset, emotional clarity, protecting the peace of those closest to you while still honoring your truth. One of the most important senior health tips, especially for emotional wellness, is to reflect inwardly, but speak outwardly with care. Choose the words that heal, not the ones that burden. This doesn't mean you should bury your feelings. You can journal, talk with a friend, speak to a therapist. But when you sit across from your grandchildren, your children, or anyone who carries love for you, ask yourself, is this helping them grow or just making them feel like they fell short? You've earned your reflections. No one can take them from you, but sharing every one of them may come at a cost neither you nor your family are prepared for. When we speak of regrets, we often want to be understood, but we can also be misunderstood. And that misunderstanding can follow us longer than the original feeling ever did. Let your family remember your strength, your resilience, your ability to learn, adapt, and keep moving forward. That's the legacy worth passing on. One of the best daily habits for longevity is letting go gently, privately, with grace. So when the thoughts come, and they will pause, ask yourself, is this mine to hold or theirs to carry? If it's sacred, keep it close. If it's wisdom, share it with love. Because not all truths need to be spoken, especially the ones that live in the softest corners of your heart. Friendtuber 5, Detailed Inheritance Plans. When we think about what we'll leave behind, most of us want to do the right thing. We want clarity, fairness, and above all, we want to prevent conflict. So it seems logical to sit down with our children, go over the details, and explain how everything will be divided. But sometimes the very transparency we believe will bring peace ends up planting seeds of tension we never saw coming. Money doesn't just reveal priorities, it reveals emotions, old wounds, long-held comparisons. And once people know what they're getting or not getting, it can quietly change how they act, how they see each other, and how they see you. That's what happened to Diane, an 82-year-old retired school principal from Columbus. She wanted to avoid confusion, so she brought her 3 adult children together and laid out her inheritance plan. The house would be sold, the retirement account split, certain keepsakes assigned by name. She expected relief. Instead, the next few months were filled with awkward phone calls and cold silences. One child called more often, but always about money. Another began second-guessing every purchase Diane made. Are you sure you should be going on that trip? Wouldn't it be smarter to save that for the grandkids? The youngest became quiet, distant, unsure of how to feel. Diane later told a friend, I thought I was giving them clarity, but what I really gave them was a reason to compete. This happens more than people like to admit. A 2021 study by Caring.com found that nearly 60% of estate planning-related family disputes stem from conversations that happened before the parent passed, not after. Why? Because knowing the details too early can stir up unspoken resentment and awaken a sense of entitlement even in the most well-meaning families. That's why it's so important to draw the line between legal preparation and emotional disclosure. Yes, you need a will. Yes, you need a trusted executor. You should absolutely have documents in place to protect your wishes and avoid chaos, but you don't need to share every detail, percentage, or personal reason behind your choices with your children while you're still living. That kind of access changes the air in the room. People start to see your spending as their loss, your independence as a threat to their future comfort. Even gifts you give while alive can become points of comparison. Why did she help him with his mortgage but not me? Why did she give her jewelry to my sister now? The more they know, the more they feel they're entitled to explain your decisions, or worse, challenge them. It's a heavy burden, and it chips away at something very precious in your final year's freedom. Freedom to enjoy the money you worked for. Freedom to take that trip, to try that new hobby, or simply to live quietly and generously in ways that matter to you. Your resources are not a family project. They are your reward. And just like a senior nutrition guide helps you protect your physical health, setting boundaries around inheritance helps you protect your emotional well-being. Because peace is part of health. Stress in later life, especially family-related, has been linked to higher rates of depression, sleep disruption, and even immune suppression. According to Harvard Health Publishing, chronic emotional strain in seniors can increase vulnerability to aging-related diseases and reduce overall quality of life. So this isn't just about money, it's about well-being, about preventing aging diseases that aren't just physical, but emotional too. If you want to pass down something meaningful, let it be your values, your wisdom, your example of how to love without controlling, give without strings, and lead without having to explain. You are not obligated to justify your choices. What you leave behind is a gift, not a debt to be collected. True natural health for seniors means protecting not just your body, but your time, your space, and your peace. So plan your estate, keep it secure, but keep your emotional doors shut to discussions that create friction. Let them remember you for your laughter, your kindness, your generosity and spirit, not for what they expected to receive. And remember, your greatest legacy isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in the life you lived, the strength you showed, and the love you gave without needing to explain. You've spent your whole life giving support, giving answers, giving time. But now it's just as important to protect something else. Your peace, your space to breathe, reflect, and live on your own terms. You don't have to share everything to be honest. You don't have to explain every decision to be fair. Sometimes wisdom means holding things quietly, gently, with care. That's not hiding. That's living with confidence. So I invite you to reflect. What's one thing you've chosen to keep to yourself, not out of fear, but out of love? Leave a comment below. Your story might help someone else find clarity too. And if this video spoke to your heart, please like it, subscribe to Live Healthy After 50, and turn on the bell. Because your health is your greatest wealth, and peace is a gift you've earned.